Early this morning, I was commenting on a video with Bill Burr and Joe Rogan, a video I watched a couple of weeks ago. But a person made a comment saying that our biggest problem is that we don't sit down and listen to each other. What Bill Burr was saying was not that he agreed with it, but he can see that they both were right in their own way. It wasn't that they were wrong; they were both right, and I agree with that. He's absolutely telling the truth, and he wrote a ton of stuff. It was a bunch of stuff he said. But he also admits that this country has lost that ability to just sit down and just listen. And I agree with that too. So I commented on his comment and I said something to this effect that you're right. And when that's pretty much the reason why you'll lose every argument with a radical or an extremist. Because they don't care about your views. They don't want to hear your views. They don't want to see your opinion or your side of anything. They don't care. They just want to get you to agree with them, and that's it. And the moment you agree, they can dismiss you. Now, I said other things, but it's not really relative. That's exactly the meaning of what I said. No point in giving all the fluff. That was this morning. Later on today, as a matter of fact, almost 10 minutes ago, came across a video which was floating around in my feed for quite some time, but I just never stopped to look at it. I came across a video with Daryl Davis. Now, Daryl Davis is a musician by day, and he is a black man who decided to try to figure out and understand why there's such a hatred for black people or people that's different. Because when he was younger, he experienced racism for the first time by doing something generic as carrying a flag in a parade. Never experienced that before, and he didn't understand why you can hate me just because I'm black. You don't even know me. So he made it a point to get this question answered, and he read tons of books, and none of them ever gave the answer. So he said, why don't I just go to the source? So he contacted one of the highest in the nation of the Ku Klux Klan. They had a meeting. He didn't tell him he was black. The person showed up with his bodyguard and the gun to the bodyguard's hip, and they were stunned to see that he was a black man. But they sat down and they listened, and they talked for quite some time, and there was a moment where the ice melted and the cans fell down in the machine, and it made a very loud noise, and it just startled everybody. And at that moment, Dow jumped into fight or flight mode, and he was about to take down the high priest and the bodyguard, because it was either move into action or he dies. Especially when someone already said, don't mess with him, he will kill you. So that was ringing in Daryl's mind. And you can look at the video for the entire, the fullness of it. I'm just giving you some cliff notes. But at that moment, their eyes met, the Daryl's and the high priest. And at that moment, they realized they both were scared. They had a good laugh, good chuckle. And then they started to build this relationship, this friendship. For a few years, he will, invite him over to his house. The Daryl will invite the Klansmen over. Never been invited by him to his house, but Daryl will invite him. He will come with his bodyguard. They'll sit there and break bread. Sometimes he'll have friends over, and they'll just sit here and talk. They'll just sit and talk. Listen to both sides. Not really agreeing, just listening. Then he began going to the rallies and the Klan rallies with this high priest, and he was beginning to become accepted even in their ranks. And then eventually he started coming over to his house without his bodyguard. Next thing you know, the guy is actually inviting Daryl into his home to break bread. All this shit was conspiring over years and years of knowing one another. And after all of that, this man who had white supremacy cemented in his mind since he was a little boy, and believed wholeheartedly that he was superior to every other race simply because he was white, not only respected this black man enough to give him the respect he deserves in a Klan rally by saying, I respect that black man more than most people because we may not agree on everything, but we can sit down and talk to one another and listen and hear where one another is coming from. He not only did that, but he eventually stepped down from that leadership role because he knew better now. He knew better. If a man, a colored man, a Negro, can get a white supremacy Klansman, the national leader, to step down from what he believed in since he was a little boy, what's stopping me from getting a feminist to at least understand and respect where I'm coming from? You see, I've spoken to many, many feminists by taking them where they need to go in Uber, trying to make a difference and only having 20 minutes to do it with. And the one thing that I did not have was the time to earn her respect. I did not have the time. You can't earn somebody's respect in 20 minutes. You might, get them to go, but then next thing you know, it's out their head and they forget all about the conversation. And I'm not saying that I'm going to go to a feminist rally and sit down amongst their ranks and just listen and just nod my head and take notes or whatever. I'm not saying I'm going to do that. I might, seeing what happened with Daryl and this Klansman, I might even do something like that because why not? If I want to invoke change or at least get an understanding of why they hate men so much, why do they have such a fear with men when it's men who are not only upholding the law, protecting the law, but creating the infrastructure so you can have a government to even enforce the laws with. Why hate us so much when you need us so desperately? What is the problem? What is it that we did so wrong? What is it that we're not doing properly? Because every man has their weakness and every woman has theirs. And not every man is bad and not every woman is good. But you would never, ever think that listening to a feminist talk. So why hate me? What have I done wrong? Because the question is not the question. The answer is, I have never done anything to you. I don't know you. But if I can sit down long enough to listen, to hear where you're coming from, to see the other side, then maybe, just maybe, you might listen long enough to see where I'm coming from. And I think that's where Bill Burr have ascended to. He married a feminist. So he has front row seats every night on how a feminist think, what she's fearful of, what affects her. He sees it firsthand. Wow. All of this in one day. I went from thinking one way to thinking somewhere else now. Now, I'm not saying my views are completely changed. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is I do see the point now. I now understand why Bill Burr can soften so much in such a little time. Because he clearly respects his wife. I mean, how can he not? And I'm sure she respects him. It just doesn't seem that way. But I'm sure she does. And because we see him more than we see her, and we know of him more than we know of her, who's to say she hasn't changed greatly by just listening to him? I mean, let's just talk about my relationship between my wife and me. My wife was a little princess. She couldn't do no wrong. She couldn't get her hands dirty. She was one of those girls that was just like, I'm a princess and you just got to do everything I want and everything I say. Now this woman can get down and dirty. She still have the core of the princess mentality. Clearly, it's still there. But she's not afraid to pull up her sleeves anymore. And I have to say, I had a lot to do with that. because I had to show her that hard works don't, because people that don't do hard work don't get shit. So I had to understand that. I had to accept that. And the same is going on with her. She rubbed off on me as well. So my point is this. I was wrong. And I'm happy that I was wrong. Because now that I see what's going on with Davis and his Klansmen, and what's going on in Bill's life with his wife, Nia, I can honestly say that maybe I just don't have enough respect, or maybe I haven't earned enough respect for the women and from the women that I disagree with. Just enough so they can at least listen. I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of work to do. Because if I'm going to be willing to put my opinion out there, I need to do it in a way where it can actually be received. And that's something that's hard for me to do because I speak the way I speak. It comes out the way I feel. It just do, you know. And when I disagree with something, I really disagree with it. And it's not so much because I think it's wrong. Moreover, I usually know it's wrong because I do the research. But that doesn't change the fact that the person still feels the way they feel. I can know that the hypocrisy between someone saying a woman should never be punched in the face, or you should never hit a woman, but then turn right around and say, good for him, he must have did something wrong when a woman hits him. I see the hypocrisy in it. But I can also see the point of view. She can't inflict as much damage on him as he can inflict on her. That doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it just, and it damn sure doesn't make it fair. But I see the point. So in conclusion, sir, if you actually listen to this video, if you actually watch this video, I will have to say to you, I apologize. I was wrong. You're spot on. And yes, if we both listen to one another, there can possibly be change. Because like I said before in this video, if Davis can do it, so can I. That's my video.